I came from Tin Pan Alley. You came from the Brill. I liked Manhattan Valley. You liked Murray Hill. You wrote the music. I wrote the words. You taught me to play footsie on your pedal board.
Maybe I hit on you, maybe you hit on me. We were holed up in the empire. We'd take that function lead. The tone, I like it dirty. The tone you like is clean. When we get together, we're a hit machine. When we get together, when we get together, when we get together, we're a hit machine.
I moved to the Fillmore. You moved to Hayton Cole. I liked David Gilmour. You liked that Dave Grohl. We learned to self-distance in a time of plague. A thing may be a mystery without it being vague.
Called me out on Polk Street. I learned to take a hit. At its heart, the oyster wants a little grit. You like the rising stars, I like the has-beens. But when we get together, we're a hit machine. When we get together, when we get together, when we get together, we're a hit machine. Na, 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 na.
You've lived in the canyon. I've lived on your floor. We've been boon companions since the troubadour. I like chili con carne. You like mung bean sprouts. When we're making music, we flesh each other out.
A hit of weed, you like Saint Souchon. We still lock ourselves in the bedroom. We don't leave without a song. You like to play the 40 watt. I like quarantine. But when we get together, we're a hit machine. When we get together, together, when we get together, we're a hit machine. Na, 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 na. When we get together, when we get together, when we get together, we're a hit machine. Together, when we get together, we're a hit machine.
welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. We're going to do our little picnic rap, which is, it's really useful to have a guitar for that. That's David Mansfield. And Warren Zanes. And Ray Kubian on drums. And Catch O'Riordan. Our novelists claim they're into plot. Then they give the plot a twist. They're patient with the wake and what, since those conditions pre-exist. We love to think we can arrange a party that's come one, come all. We love to think nothing has changed since the days of music hall. It's part tailgate, part pedal to the floor. It's a sonic boom. It's a Jarvie driving a coach and four through your living room. Muldoon's Picnic's the place to come. There's something here for everyone. Our poets claim they like to rhyme. Then it seems they may forget, but they will turn on a paradigm when it looks like their minds are set. We love to think that passing strange is standard fare round here. We love to think nothing has changed since the vaudeville years. It's part hootenanny, part hold on. It's a mulligan stew. A tablecloth spread on a burial ground where everything's askew. Muldoon's Picnic's the place to come. There's something here for everyone. With the Pulitzer Prize-winning poet Marie Howe, prose from Molly Jong-Fast, music from Richard Thompson. Wow! Catch O'Riordan, Ray Kubian, Warren Zanes, David Mansfield. A stellar cast. Our musicians claim they've taken note of the sequence, of the chords, but play a medley, quote unquote, a smash up smorgasbord. We love to think home on the range brings us home to Donegal. We love to think nothing much has changed since the days of music hall. It's part drunken boat, part balloon trip. It's a lot of hot air. It's that coach and four gone arse over tip. A sing-song, a ding-dong, a Donnybrook fair. Muldoon's Picnic's the place to come. There's something here for everyone. Yep, Muldoon's Picnic's the place to come. Something here for everyone. Thank you so much, Rogue Oliphant. Rogue Oliphant will be back. Thank you so much. What a treat to be here in the 92nd Street. Why? Hard to believe. So what a show we have for you this evening. We're kicking off with one of the great writers of our time, one of the great commentators of our time. Writers, of course, each in their own way is a commentator, a sociologist, an historian, maybe even a geographer. Lots of jobs going for the writer. Molly Jong-Fast is the author of 2 novels, Normal Girl and The Social Climber's Handbook, and 3 memoirs. 3 memoirs. Most of us are sort of wondering if we could amount to one, but she has done so much in her life. She's got Girl, Maladjusted, The Sex Doctors in the Basement, and most recently, of course, the extremely successful How to Lose Your Mother. You may recall that after the 2016 presidential election, Molly Jong-Fast began focusing her writing on politics, became a political commentator, podcaster. She's done so much with this 3rd memoir, of course, which is now a New York Times bestseller. A reviewer in the New York Times described the book as reading like a score-settling marathon at times, but also like a loving elegy. I think the score really is a musical score. And it's such a thrill to welcome the great Molly Jong-Fast.
I can't keep this mic? All right. Wait, now I have 2 microphones. By the way, being introduced by Paul Muldoon, who's significantly more famous and accomplished than I am, can I just say that I didn't come for a sound check, and that is why I ended up with 2 microphones. So this is my penance. I will just put it here. I am probably like one of the very few people here who have won no prizes. So someone has a Pulitzer. I haven't even been nominated for a Webby. And those are like a fake prize, okay? Once the Webby people wrote to me and they were like, we would like you to present a Webby. So, like, whatever is less than a Pulitzer Prize, that's what I have. I have a very long introduction for no reason. But I'm going to read a little bit of my book, just a little bit, because I feel like music is kind of better. But I'll do it. And I love Paul. I'm honored to be a part of this. And this is the first time it's ever been at the 92nd Street Y. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know if you know this, but when you come to the 92nd Street Y, you get to sign this book. That's very cool, with a lot of very famous people who sign this book. So anytime I come here, I get to sign the book. So I will be back if Paul will have me. Anyway, so I'm just going to read you a little bit of my book. I like that the review was like a score-settling memoir. It's like not quite a rave, but I'll take it. And I'll just read the really score-settling part, which is all of it. No, I'm just kidding. She wrote about me, I wrote about her, we love each other, whatever. We do, family of writers, this is what it is, man. I am the only child of a once famous woman. How famous she was in her heyday, I would argue, is kind of irrelevant. Fame, like alcoholism, rings a bell in you that can never be unrung. My mother was famous. It changed the makeup of her cells, like a smoker who gets lung cancer or an addict who is so hooked on heroin that she is never freed and has to go on methadone forever and ever and ever, even after she's forgotten what the high of heroin was. To say my mother and I are close doesn't really express the full magnitude of the relationship. We are painfully, inexorably, chronically close, the way magnets are. Sometimes when I lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling, I'm not even sure I exist without her. She created me and I enabled her. But there is a paradox at the heart of our relationship. As close as we are, there has always been between us an unbridgeable distance. My relationship with her has always been wildly conflicted. I know that she loved me, but I also know that she never really particularly seemed interested in me. She always told me she wanted me, desperately wanted me. But I spent most of my school breaks, I swear to God this is true, in a trailer park in Tampa with my nanny. Which, by the way, I loved. I cannot tell you the love I had for this trailer park. And I really did think it was like the greatest place in the world, because it was really fun. As much as I love my mother, I often found myself regarding her with feelings that were somewhat closer to the opposite of love. My relationship with her is split right down the middle. I admire her, but I pity her. I revere her. No, I worship her, but I'm mortified by her. I'd always thought there would be a time when I would finally be able to reconcile all of these insane, contradictory feelings. But not long ago, my mother started disappearing, began dissolving into the whiteness of a background, like a line on a shaken Etch-a-Sketch. Now, and anyway, so I'm going to read just a tiny bit more, and then I'm going to stop. My mother never got over being famous. Even years after people stopped coming up to us in stores, even years after she slipped from the public consciousness, the virus of fame had already made her someone different. Becoming normal like the rest of us, the journey to unfamousness was for her an event so strange and stressful, so damaging to her ego that she was never able to process it. My grandfather, the writer and communist, Howard Fast, and by the way, he was really a communist. Like, he disavowed Stalin in like 1964, like real late. And also, FYI, last living recipient of the Stalin Peace Prize, picked by Stalin. This is not, in case you're wondering, it's not bragging, this is confession here. Howard Fast, his most famous novel was Spartacus, adapted into an even more famous movie, directed by Stanley Kubrick and starring my grandfather's nemesis, Kirk Douglas. By the way, he hated Kirk Douglas because he felt that Kirk Douglas got credit for his writing. I mean, just totally fakakta. He was unable to become unfamous too, to slip back into the world the rest of us occupied. The world of emptying the dishwasher and picking up your prescriptions, the world of not having people stop you on the street to tell you every detail of their lives. My grandfather was a best-selling author who published over 80 books, but now no one, other than the very narrow subset of the elderly, had ever heard of him. I never knew my mother or grandfather at the height of their respective fames, but I did know them at the end, when they were desperately trying to claw fame back from the writers who, they believed, had taken it from them. Watching my mother's failed metamorphosis back to normal made me sort of a fame hobbyist, like a bird watcher without the birds. Thank you. Am I supposed to introduce someone else?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. You know, that's one of the dangers with the microphone. It can walk very easily. In fact, I have left venues with a microphone in my pocket. I'm halfway home with the microphone. Thank you so much. It is. So I should give you a little background, perhaps, to how we operate in this band. Basically, I write the lyrics, or try to write the lyrics, and then they're taken up by one of the members. That first song you heard, for example, was written by Warren Zanes here. The next one was also written by Warren Zanes, I think I'm right. But it's going to be performed this evening by Koch O'Riordan. It's called Reading Too Much. There was something about the way you shook your head like you were a little smug. When we hogged the water cooler and I felt like a high schooler hungry for scuttlebutt. Sometimes things have gone south. Sometimes things have gone west. Sometimes I'm led by the nose. I follow my gut for the rest. Something makes me think tonight's a night on which we might one day reminisce. Or am I reading too much into all of this?
There was something about the way you shook your head and gave a little shrug when I said I'd been living on squash since Thanksgiving, acorn and butternuts. Sometimes the wind's from the north, sometimes the wind's from the east. Sometimes it blows hard and cold, sometimes we're shut out of the field. Something makes me think there might be signals which I might easily miss. Or am I reading too much into all of this? Oh, am I reading too much into all of this? There was something about the way you shook your head, like the place might be bugged when we met at that lecture on film and architecture by Professor such and such. Sometimes things rise to the top, sometimes they sink without trace. Some beat around the bush, I always cut to the chase. Something makes me think you might have, or maybe if
this. Interminable weighing in the scales of my failure to go vegan and subsist on squash plus lentils. With the success of my trip to Riverdale by way of the Major Deegan, in which you were instrumental. Oh, instrumental. There was something about the way you shook your head, like you're a little smug when we hugged the water, and I felt like a high schooler hungry for scuttlebutts. Sometimes things have gone south, sometimes things have gone west. Sometimes I'm led by the nose, I follow my gut for the rest. Something makes me think tonight's a night on which we may one day reminisce. Or am I reading too much into all of this? Oh, am I reading too much into all of this?
So, Katja Reardon, thank you very much indeed. So, our next guest is Marie Howe, great American poet who served as the New York Poet Laureate between 2012 and 2016. She's a Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets, poet in residence at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Now, there's a job. There's a job. And throughout her career, she's received many fellowships and awards for her work. Her debut collection, The Good Thief, was selected by Margaret Atwood for the National Poetry Series. What the Living Do came out in 1997. The Kingdom of Ordinary Time, 2008. Magdalene, longlisted for the National Book Award in Poetry. And her most recent book, of course, has won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. So it's a terrific honor to welcome Marie Howe.
Hi, everybody. Hold on a second. Whoops. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? It's great to see you. Just a little, I need a little shade for a second. It's great to see you all. It's wonderful to be here with Paul Muldoon Picnic. What can I say? It's a joy, a real joy, a great pleasure to hear Molly just now. Didn't you want to hear about 10 or 20 or 100 more minutes of that? Really, tell her, because she walked in and she said, was I too long? And we're like, no, the opposite. So I'm just going to read you probably just a few, very few poems. I'm not able to hear as well as I used to, so if I keep saying, can you hear me, just say no if you can, okay? Thanks so much. So I'm going to begin with a poem called Postscript. What we did to the earth, we did to our daughters, one after the other. What we did to the trees, we did to our elders, stacked in their wheelchairs by the lunchroom door. What we did to our daughters, we did to our sons, calling out for their mothers. What we did to the trees, what we did to the earth, we did to our sons, to our daughters. What we did to the cow, to the pig, to the lamb, we did to the earth, butchered and milked it. Few of us knew what the bird calls meant or what the fires were saying. We took of earth and took and took, and the earth seemed not to mind until one of our daughters shouted, "It was right in front of you, right in front of your eyes, and you didn't see." The air turned red, the ocean grew teeth. The chainsaw. There's always a chainsaw somewhere. The high whine of a drill, somebody building something or tearing it down, fastening metal to metal. Almost everywhere, the sound of the human will, the bluster of engine, the grind of a blade, the wheel, hammering, construction, repair. Someone nailed to a cross, someone lashed, leashed, someone hung from a scaffold. Listen, the squeak of the rope, the hammering. "Kill him with his own gun," one woman shouted. "Kill him with his own gun." What have we made? What are we making? And who or what made us that we should make such things as we do and did? We grow smaller, we break things, then turn to each other and beg for what no human can give. So during the COVID pandemic, which feels so strange now, like a dream sometimes, this next poem just sort of came through me. And many of us, I'm sure, were aware that the earth healed quite a bit when we were busy locked indoors. The city's pollution cleared, the waters cleared, swans swam in Venice canals. And so this voice actually came through me. I didn't really write it. I know that sounds like a poet talking, but it's true. So this is what the earth seemed to say, 2020, what the earth seemed to say. Do you still believe in borders? Birds soar over your maps and walls and always have. You might have watched how the smoke from your own fires traveled on wind you couldn't see, wafting over the valley and up and over the hills and over the next valley and the next hill. Did you not hear the animals howl and sing, or hear the silence of the animals no longer howling? Now you know what it is to be afraid. You think this is a dream? It is not a dream. You think this is a theoretical question? What do you love more than what you imagine is your singular life? The water grows clearer, the swans settle and float there. Are you willing to take your place in the forest again, to become loam and bark, to be a leaf falling from a great height, to be the worm who eats the leaf and the bird who eats the worm? Look at the sky. Are you willing to be the sky again? You think this lesson is too hard for you? You want the timeout to end. You want to go to the movies as before, to sit and to eat with your friends. It can end now, but not in the way you imagine. You know, the mind that has been talking to you for so long, the mind that can explain everything? Don't listen. You were once a citizen of a country called I Don't Know. Remember the boat that brought you there? It was your body. Climb in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marie Howe. By the way, there are books by our writers available, so I hope you'll take the opportunity at our little intermission, which is coming up shortishly, to buy a copy and perhaps get one signed. So our next guest is someone I've been listening to since, 1967 or 8 or something along those lines. And when, of course, he was in the great folk rock group Fairport Convention. Yes. And, in the early 70s, his great debut solo album, Henry the Human Fly. Wouldn't one want to have a title like that? Such a great title. He spent some time in a duo with his wife, Linda Thompson. They had 6 albums. And then, of course, his solo career, which has been very much to the fore. Hand of Kindness in 1983. 3 albums, Rumour and Sigh, You, Me, Us, and Dream Attic, nominated for Grammys. Still, as recently as 2015, was a top 10, UK top 10 album. A versatile, virtuoso guitarist, a sharp, observational singer-songwriter whose work burns with intelligence and dark emotion. That's Neil McCormick. An officer of the Order of the British Empire. Just one of his distinctions. And by the way, an author. I fear we may not have books by him tonight, but his memoir, Bee's Wing, Losing My Way and Finding My Voice, is a truly fabulous read. Maybe if he comes back sometime, we'll have a copy of the book. I fear we may not have it tonight. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Richard Thompson.
Thank you. Oh, you know, I can't do nothing for you. And you know, I say my piece and a pound that pavement's always wishing that I could live my life again. Well, I rest some cane and sing some whiskey. Well, I ramble like a man insane. His arms I've held and hearts I've broken. Oh, if I could live my life again. hate the four walls of this prison. Those cowards, let me take the blame. I swear I'll run with better company. Oh, if I could live my life again. And you know, true love slipped through my fingers. Somehow I never could explain. Next time I'd say just what I'm thinking. Oh, if I could live my life again. And I wish that my sins could be forgiven. That's why I sing this old refrain. One more chance is all I'm asking. Oh, if I could live my life again. Oh, if I could live my life again. Human history is littered with kings, tyrants, despots, authoritarians, fascists, Nazis, sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists. I speak historically. I can't think of a contemporary example of any of those, but this one's called Pharaoh. He sits in his tower of steel. The dogs of money are at his heel. Magicians cry, oh truth, oh real. We're all working for the Pharaoh. 1,000 eyes, 1,000 ears. He feeds us all, he feeds our fears. Don't stir in your sleep, my dears. We're all working for the Pharaoh. it's Egypt land, we're all living in Egypt land. Tell me, brother, don't you understand? We're all working for the Pharaoh. Hidden from the eye of chance, the men of shadow dance a dance, and we're all struck into a trance. We're all working for the Pharaoh. The idols rise into the sky, pyramids soar, sphinxes lie, head of dog, Osiris eye. We're all working for the Pharaoh. And it's Egypt land, we're all living in Egypt land. Tell me, sister, don't you understand? We're all working for the Pharaoh. I dig a ditch, I shape a stone, another battlement for his throne. Another day on earth is flown. We're all working for the Pharaoh. Now you call it England, you call it Spain, but Egypt rules with the whip and chain. Moses, free my people again. We're all working for the Pharaoh. It's Egypt land, we're all living in Egypt land. Egypt land, we're all living in Egypt land. Brothers and sisters, don't you understand that we're all working for the Pharaoh? Pharaoh sits in his tower of steel. Around his feet the princes kneel. Far beneath we shoulder the wheel. We're all working for the Pharaoh. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, folks. We're going to take a short break, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. What do you think, 10 or 15? 10. You know what? I couldn't agree more. 10 minutes is what it's going to be. Because it's a school night, right? Yeah. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Don't go too far. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. We're just doing a little tuning here. You know, one of the great things about the poetry business, I'm trying to think of what it is now. One of the great things about the poetry business, there is one thing. One doesn't have to tune. You know? One's always ready. Look at me. Always ready. Simon and Garfunkel opened for Frank Zappa. Bo Diddley opened for The Clash. Wheatus opened for Bowling for Soup. 60 Feet Dolls opened for Ash. A Flock of Seagulls opened for the Human League. The Human League opened for Susie Sue. 9 Inch Nails opened for Metallica. I might just open for you. If 9 Inch Nails opened for Metallica, I might just open for you.
Open for you. Open for you. Open for you. Open for you.
Metallica opened for Anthrax. Jerry Lee Lewis opened for The Doors. Shanana opened for Jimi Hendrix. Charlie XCX opened for Paramore. Simple Minds opened for The Pretenders. The Pretenders opened for U2. Slayer opened for Pantera. It could be I'll open for you. If Slayer opened for Pantera, could be I'll open for you.
Open for you. Open for you. Open for you. Open for you.
In that world where there are no second acts, though Thin Lizzy opened for Queen, yeah, verily, when Freddie still held court. Meanwhile, back in the Department of Fun Facts, Warren Zevon opened for the Everlys when he himself could have done with a little support. The Everlys opened for Simon and Garfunkel. Jethro Tull opened for Yes. John Anderson opened for Vangelis. The Go-Go's opened for In Excess. Joan Jett opened for Billy Idol. Billy Idol opened for The Who. Dashboard Confessional opened for Goo Goo Dolls. I might still open for you. If Dashboard Confessional opened for Goo Goo Dolls, I might still open for you.
There was a little kerfuffle out there, like, do I just go out? What happens? Okay, so where did we leave off? In our bodies, remember that? So good to be together physically, isn't it? After all that time not being together. Some of you are old enough to remember when the phone was attached to the wall. And some of you might remember a time when some of us had dinner with our families, and if the phone rang, we were not allowed to answer it because it was dinner time. A very different world. So I'd like to read to you a poem called The Letter, 1968. That he wrote it with his hand, and folded the paper, and slipped it into the envelope, and sealed it with his tongue, and pressed it closed, so I might open it with my fingers. That he brought it to the box, and slipped it through the slot, so that it might be carried through time and weather to where I waited on the front porch step. We knew how to wait then. It was what life was, much of it. So when the mailman came up the walk and didn't have it, he might have it the next day or the next, when it bore the mark of his hand who had written my name, so I might open it and read it again and then again, and look at the envelope he'd sealed and press my mouth to where his mouth had been. So how many people in this room believe in reincarnation? What, nobody? Who? Paul? 3? 4, 5, 5.5. This is a very secular crowd. Okay, well, this is a poem called Reincarnation. So stay with me here. I'm sorry. Reincarnation. Sometimes, when I look at our dog Jack, I think he might be my radical American history professor. Come back to make amends. He gazes at me so sorrowfully. "What is it, Jack?" I say. "Why do you look like that?" But Jack doesn't answer. He lies down and rests his head on his paws. Black hair covered nearly all of that man's body, thick under his blue Oxford shirt when I put my hand there. Perhaps that accounted for the bow tie, the pipe, the tweed cap. This time, I can teach him to sit and to stay. "Stay," I say to Jack, who looks at the treat in my hand and then at me, and at the treat and then at me, and he stays. "Come," I say to Jack, but Jack does not always come. Sometimes he sits and looks at me a long time, as when my professor would lean back in his chair, draw on his pipe, and gaze at me. But when I hold a treat, Jack comes, and I remember how the professor would lick dripping honey from the jar, lick peanut butter from the knife. A little stubborn, our dog Jack, shy, we thought, until the morning my daughter jumped on my bed and Jack sprang at her growling, and the next morning when he rushed toward her growling and bit her skirt and tore it, and bit her and broke her skin. And when I went to collar him, bit me, snarling, and bit and bit. That's when I was pretty sure he was my history professor. The vet said this happens more often than you'd imagine. He must always be tethered, she said, until he can be trusted. He must learn that you and your daughter come first, and no more couch. And no more sleeping in the bed with you, Mama, not ever. I finally left him so late at night it was nearly dawn, picking up my boots by the door, stepping down the 2 flights, then running towards the car. What can I say? Jack may be my American history professor, come back after all these years to make amends. Or Jack may be actually himself a dog. Thank you. Jack and the Moon. You know, not that there's anything wrong with being a dog when you're a dog. So I want to read one more poem, and it was written, maybe some of you know Maria Popova. She comes out with this thing called The Marginalian, and then she changed it. Well, it used to be Brain Pickings, right? And now it's The Marginalian. And she held for many years a great event called The Universe in Verse. And it was science and poets came together and spoke and read. And I was trying to understand the cosmos at the time. I was trying to read that book by Stephen Hawking that's so hard to understand, except for the last 2 pages. And when he sort of tells us everything so simply, and it's like, it was great. And I was trying to read Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and of course Carlo Rovelli, all these people trying to explain to me what the singularity was. And Stephen Hawking died, and anyway, things came together, and this poem came out of it. The singularity, as you remember, is that extremely dense matter, that tiny matter that blew up into everything. If you believe that. Who believes in the Big Bang? More people believe in the Big Bang than in reincarnation. Well, that's good. So here's a poem called The Singularity. Do you sometimes want to wake up to the singularity we once were? So compact, nobody needed a bed, or food, or money. Nobody hiding in the school bathroom, or home alone, pulling open the drawer where the pills are kept. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. Remember, there was no nature, no them, no tests to determine if the elephant grieves her calf or if the coral reef feels pain. Trashed oceans don't speak English or Farsi or French. Would that we could wake up to what we were when we were ocean. And before that, to when sky was earth and animal was energy and rock was liquid and stars were space and space was not at all, nothing. Before we came to believe humans were so important, before this awful loneliness. Can molecules recall it, what once was, before anything happened? No I, no we, no one, no was, no verb, no noun, only a tiny, tiny dot brimming with is, all, everything, home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie Howe. Wonderful poems. You don't believe in reincarnation? Look at this band, it's just come back wherever. So, as I was mentioning earlier, one of the glories of being with this band is that each person in it is a writer. And that first song that we did, Open for You, which, by the way, is one of those songs, that was the short version of it. That's the kind of song where one has so much fun. It could go on, and actually it does go on forever, but you got the short version and you should be very happy. But that it was written by Ray Kubian here on drums. Now, as is this next song, it's called Hard to Get. You know, I don't know if you've ever tried to play drums. I don't know if you've ever tried to play drums and sing at the same time. It's quite difficult, but Ray pulls it off. Where will we set the interest rate? By which I mean your interest in me. Who knew that going on a final date might incur hidden fees? Hard to get.
Interest in me. Who knew that going on a final day might incur hidden fees? What is it about ready dough? As you sound calculating how much storied cash flow now looks to be abating. When will we prove our mettle and deal with the national debt? As for the national debt, why we owe trillions of shekels is hard to get. Where will we find a swaying reed to which the wind would yet become a dude who knew their points of entry still decreed the sights of exit wounds. What would it take for us to staunch all this internal bleeding? How might this rumored second tranche impact the bottom feeding? When will we grasp the nettle and deal with the Russian threats? As for the Russian threat, why we launch submarine vessels is hard to get. Only those who've been in prison know what it is to have risen above the everyday. Since you and I already smitten with me when we lived on a pittance, there's no need for you to play hard to get. There's no need for you to play hard to get. There's no need for you to play hard to get. Where will we run from the rainstorm? The storm that flings down its loose chains. Who knew that what we now take as the norm once seemed extremely strange? What does it take for we deny the truth of global warming? How did our taking to the skies become so habit-forming? When will we finally settle on cooling our private jets? As for cooling our jets, why we surmise we're so special is hard to get. Thank you.
With no introduction, so if you don't remember me, I'm sorry. I'm really old, so I'm going to read about my parents' marriage in the 70s. I promised to stop writing about my family. I feel like I'm like slightly too old for this, but this I think is funny, or weird at least. My parents met in California. They were introduced by my grandparents, communist hero, you may have heard about him earlier tonight, Howard Fast, and his wife, Betty Fast. She was the daughter of a newspaper man, which means different things, but let's see. Both Howard and Betty and my mom had been friendly with an old poet named Louis Untermeyer, who lived in Newtown, Connecticut. Grandpa said he'd have a party for Mom when her latest book came out. The day of the party, the bartender, who was also to act as the evening chauffeur, didn't show up, so my grandfather put my dad to work. He had to pick up my mom at her hotel. My dad had a green MG. He had hair then. He, with his hair and his sporty little MG, met my mom at her hotel. A few weeks later, she was in the Dominican Republic getting a divorce from her second husband, Dr. Alan Zhang, the star, sadly for him, of the novel Fear of Flying. My mom said her divorce lawyer in Santo Domingo was also her taxi driver. After the divorce was finalized, her driver attorney took her out for ice cream. When my parents got together, my father's parents were living in a modest home behind the Beverly Hills Hotel. There were still modest homes in Beverly Hills back then in the 70s. Now there's an enormous 5-story parking complex on the site. After they were married, my parents bought a shack, really, on the wrong side of the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu. In the late 90s, my mother dragged me back to have a look at the house. It still had a spray-painted snake on the garage door. When they lived there, the neighbors on one side were a rock band, and on the other side was my mother's friend, the writer Henry Miller. My mom always insisted she never slept with Henry Miller. We're just going to pretend she didn't. That California, the California of the 70s, was a different world, a world filled with sprouts and yoga and lots of sweet-smelling, sticky pot. My father and mother were madly in love, or so they said. But it's possible that's what every parent tells their child. Or, put it this way, I don't think my mother was ever not madly in love. After a couple of months, they moved back to the East Coast because they were worried having a child grow up on the West Coast would make said child weird and fucked up. Yes, the West Coast would fuck up a kid. But the decade over the course of which they spent divorcing soon after seemed not to bother them much at all. New York City was considered dangerous back then, so my parents moved to Weston, Connecticut, a small town 30 minutes from the Merritt Parkway near New Canaan. Close to us was the home animal shelter owned by the younger sister of Gypsy Rose Lee, June Havoc. You'll remember the character of Baby June from the musical Gypsy. My parents adopted a dog from Gypsy Rose Lee's sister because, of course, they would adopt a dog from Gypsy Rose Lee's sister. I mean, why wouldn't you? They named the dog Buffy. Buffy had red hair and was always sick with all sorts of parasites. They also had a white Bichon named Puchkin, who was very stupid. I'm just going to skip ahead here a little bit. Okay, I'm going to get to the really gritty part of the story. In 1978, I was born in a hospital in Stamford, Connecticut. I came out with red hair. This was proof to my mother that I was special. That fantasy of my specialness continued my entire life. I was special even though I was dyslexic. I was special even though I got kicked out of Dalton. I was special even though I was a drug addict. I was special despite my fatness or because of my fatness. I was special despite all evidence to the contrary. I was special because I was a piece of her. I read an interview with my mom in which the interviewer described me as stout. As a stout toddler. Stout means kind of fat. I never thought of a toddler as being able to be fat, but there it was. This from the interview in the Washington Post. Their daughter, Molly Miranda Jong-Fast, is 2 years old and redheaded. She was born between pages 284 and 285 of Fanny. Having a baby, Jong said, transformed her. In my 20s and 30s, I didn't think I wanted children, she said. But by the time I was 34 or 35, I realized that if I didn't have a baby soon, it was going to be a matter of picking up every stray dog in Connecticut. I always wondered if they would have been better off with a dog. Later, my mom bought a dog and named it the name she wanted to name me. I swear to God. I was like, the name my father wouldn't let her use. Belinda. Anyway, thank you guys.
If it makes a cut. So new it doesn't have a name. She was the one in a million. She was the carousel queen. With each revolution, she forgot where she'd been. And she must have been dizzy, spinning out of her head. Mistook you for Prince Charming. She even took you to bed. And it's so easy to see it now. If you know the name of the game, it was the cocaine walking, it was the booze talking. And you showed her your thistle, your military tattoo, up there on your shoulder, sledgehammer of a clue. And you told jokes in hieroglyphics, sent postcards in Greek, one line of Shakespeare, and she's yours for the week. And it's so easy to see it now. If you know the name of the game, it was the cocaine walking, it was the booze talking, it was the cocaine walking, it was the booze talking. And who'll win the battle before the nurse pulls the plug? The King's Road hippie or the sucky hard thug? And you stand at the mirror just like you always do. Give a wink to your head like that saucy old you. It's so easy to see it now. If you know the name of the game, it was the cocaine walking, it was the booze talking, it was the cocaine walking, it was the booze talking. Thanks very much. Thank you. Something for the old folks in the audience now. You know who you are. In the 1980s, ride on the wall of death one more time. You can waste your time on the other rides. This is the nearest to being alive. Oh, let me take my chances on the wall of death. You can go with the crazy people in the crooked house. You can fly away on the rocket or spin the mouse. Eternal love might amuse you. I know as I might confuse you. But let me take my chances on the wall of death. On the wall of death, all the world is far from me. On the wall of death, it's the nearest to being free. Oh, you're going nowhere when you ride on the carousel. And maybe you're strong, but what's the good of ringing a bell? The switchback will make you crazy. Beware of the beauty lady. Oh, let me take my chances on the wall of death. Ride on the wall of death one more time. Let me ride on the wall of death one more time. You can waste your time on the other rides. This is the nearest to being alive. Oh, let me take my chances on the wall of death. Let me take my chances on the wall of death. Let me take my chances on the wall of death. Oh, oh, oh. Sorry, Phillips.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What a fabulous, fabulously life-affirming song. We're coming towards the end. It's brilliant. Coming towards the end of our evening. Thanks very much to so many people involved here at the 92nd Street Y. Danny Gallagher on audio. Thank you very much indeed, Danny, for looking after us. And then we had Walt Taylor on deck. Thank you, Walt. Ellie Fitzgerald on cameras. Anthony Lombard, front of house. Rafael Cortez for the projections. Ethan Conklin for the lighting. And Bud Gallerita on helping out there, A2. Then Jamie Roderick, the lighting designer. Thank you, Jamie. And Casey Gibbons, the production assistant. Isabel Braun, the programming coordinator here. And at the 92nd Street Y. And Lucas Whitman, the Director of Programming. Thank you very much indeed for having us here. Christopher Gorzelnik. Thank you, Christopher, for looking after us. And then our special guest today, of course, Molly Jong-Fast. Thank you very much, Molly, for being with us. Marie Howe. The members of Rogue Oliphant, they're Catch O'Riordan, Ray Kubian, Warren Zanes, David Mansfield, And our special guests, Richard and Zara. Thank you very much indeed. Zara Phillips, Richard Thompson. They're going to help, thank you. They're going to help us out on this final number. It's a song called Feedback. Feedback. You know when you get that legend, we welcome your feedback. That's all it took to get me started. So we're going to close with this, and I think we're lucky, we might, have a little bit of the old style feedback along the way. So thank you so much. I hope you'll join us again. We're back here in January, February, April, and May. So keep an eye out for the dates. We have a lot of great guests coming, and please, we hope to see you again. So here's Feedback. Once wave after wave of choppers were guided by their own screams. But an out-and-out showstopper would require a laser beam. If Jimi Hendrix was stone-free on the third stone from the sun, it was partly because he launched an attack with a heavy machine gun. Sugar Plum and Candy Baby wore stockings with straight seams, but syphilis and scabies would make for broken dreams. If Lou Reed was up to speed on the dirty boulevard, it was partly because he wrestled smack with next to no holes barred. From Death Valley. They hauled borax from Death Valley with a well-balanced mule team, but an out-and-out finale would be brutal in the extreme. If the Edge chopped down a Joshua tree on the way to Zabriskie Point, it was partly because he could multi-track, so many would come to anoint him another king of feedback.
King of feedback, feedback, feedback. The Edge always looking feedback on the way to Zabriskie Point.
Thank you so much, folks. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon, I hope. All the best. Bye. Thank you.